Good evening, everyone, and I thank Anil for inviting me. I think he's a single-handed champion in this cause, and thank you for getting us all together, Anil. What I do at Moffitt is work in a field of research that has been under a lot of controversy because it was called integrative medicine, alternative medicine, and we took it and used the scientific approach in the same way and the same rigor with which we test therapeutic drugs. And using that drug development model, we've been developing botanicals and biologicals at the Moffitt Cancer Center. And of course, I don't do this single-handedly, but I lead this area of research with a large team of molecular biologists, drug discovery scientists, clinicians, pathologists, bioinformatics people, and also those who work in systems biology part of it. So what I'm a novice at this, so pardon me if I'm a big dreamer. But to me, the ultimate goal of the Indo-US Cancer Research Initiative, because that's what I know and that's what I know to do well, is number one, contribute to the reduction in the cancer burden through better knowledge of the disease and translating that knowledge into effective early detection, prevention, and treatment. And how do we go about doing that? To me, is to first establish an infrastructure, and it looks like there's a lot of attempt at doing this over the past few years, of national transdisciplinary core stakeholders represented by research scientists and clinical oncologists, pharmaceutical industry, regulatory bodies, biotech industry representatives, and bioinformatics professionals to lead this initiative. And I think, as we've heard our speakers before, we're not hypotheses-driven anymore, we are data-driven now. And so it's important to increase the number of cancer research scientists, not enough just to have massive data sitting in our laboratories, but to then translate it into application science. We really need that group of research scientists and clinicians committed to lower cancer burden, both in India and in the US. Develop and establish research partnerships between cancer research scientists and clinicians. And if you notice, I'm always talking about cancer research scientists and clinicians. I do see a lot of that happening in both the countries, but more so in India than here. And it's very important that they both collaborate and also establish partnerships between our organizations in India with American Society of Clinical Oncology and AACR, the American Association of Cancer Research, and bodies such as those, and then identify funding for sustained support, and most importantly, achieve efficient translation of these discoveries into standards for clinical practice that will ultimately affect cancer morbidity and mortality. That was a long slide. But where I see significant potential is the systematic approach that we've used. We've come from epidemiological research to bioinformatics, cellular in vitro research validation based on the data analysis using bioinformatics, doing the preclinical research in animal models, and then progressing to phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials for prevention and treatment, and of course, survival. Standard guidelines for clinical cancer care should be established based on this, and then health policy, cost effectiveness, and reimbursement follow. This is the scientific paradigm that we've been using. And there's also a message from the Institute of Medicine that just came out, the report, that there's an urgent need to find a more productive way to develop drugs through cooperation among all the stakeholders that I talked about. And one solution may be to increase the pre-competitive collaboration, not wait till you have a funding available and then get together very quickly, but really start working together in the pre-competitive stage. We know that several biologicals and botanicals and naturally occurring compounds have been identified to elicit a spectrum of responses very relevant to the prevention of carcinogenesis. and symptoms resulting in treatments for cancer, including we know about anti-inflammatory agents, antioxidant agents, anti-proliferative, anti-carcinogenic, and anti-angiogenic activity of these botanicals and biologics. The assets in India and in the US, we have a whole bunch of botanicals and biologicals for which we know detailed chemistry, we know what the bioactive components are and fractions are, we know what the molecular targets are, and some of us have used the bioinformatics resources already in the form of in silico drug development. So we have all these as assets. As I said, the bioinformatics, the data-driven concept of developing these agents and taking them quickly to phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials can only happen if we actually use the data for translational studies that's sitting in our laboratories, that are sitting in computers in each of our institutions. This approach to drug design has never been fully evaluated for the development of botanicals and biologicals for cancer treatment prevention and prevention. In spite of the outstanding infrastructure and the number of botanicals already identified, there are no systematic collaborative approaches to, first of all, prioritize these agents, utilizing the large bioinformatics resource, and characterizing these agents into translational studies for cancer. This is my lab's work. We've taken several of these botanicals and biologics to phase 2 clinical trials. We're working with isoflavones, carotenoids, green tea polyphenols, curcumin, folic acid, tannic acid, omega-3 fatty acids, resveratrol, anthocyanins, and last but not least, that doesn't come under botanicals, but metformin. So for us to take this to phase 2 clinical trials, it has taken us over 6 years, which is really a short time when you compare it to what the pharma industry is doing, which takes about 15 years to bring a drug to market and spends over $200 million. All our studies are funded by the National Cancer Institute, and we're thankful to them. And if you look at the value curve where we are, it's very important. That short curve over there, the 3 to 5 years, can be really speeded up using bioinformatics and using the data-driven models. So we can save a lot of time with the immense resources that both countries share. We can take agents to phase 2B clinical trials very quickly and bring agents to market much more faster than what we're doing today. So what are the opportunities for us to collaborate? We've already proposed a workshop, proposal submitted to the Indo-US bilateral workshop on accelerating botanical and biological agent development research for cancer chemoprevention and treatment. We used a very similar model that Duke University uses in collaboration with the NCI and FDA in developing this curriculum for this. We'll be inviting scientists from all over India, the Cancer Grid in India, to the Moffitt Cancer Center to conduct this workshop. We also want to establish an Indo-US repository of biologics and botanicals. This is a steep, ambitious thought, but we want to do this, that we can both share joint repository. Team science consortiums. At the end of the workshop, I want us to form at least 5 Indo-US working collaborative teams working specifically on these agents and really prioritizing the cancers of interest in both countries, head and neck, lung, cervical, colorectal, ovarian, very common in both countries. And we have a list of agents that look promising for all these cancers. And also initiate a collaborative US, actually apply for funding at that point and come up with tangible objectives of at least a minimum of 2 research projects from this initiative going to the National Cancer Institute or the Indian funding organizations. So we want to come up with a minimum of at least 2 research proposals. And until then, we plan to meet at some of the national meetings and in venues such as this. Thank you.